and welcome aboard AMP WebTalk. So I welcome you all on behalf of Association of Muslim Professionals. We will now be starting our session with a tilawat Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول صدق الله العظيم. Thank you so much everyone for joining the session today of about social media for social good. So before we jump into our live session, I would quickly like to introduce Association of Muslim Professionals. I will not take more than few minutes. Thank you. So AMP, Association of Muslim Professionals. AMP is registered in India, United States of America, United Kingdom, and Australia as a non-profit organization. AMP has completed 12 years serving our community in the field of education, employment, and empowerment. And we have a vision to positively impact lives of at least 10 million people by 2030. Our mission is to empower the underprivileged for the greater benefit of the society in general and nation as a whole. Our vision is to be a model community which is advanced in education, socially progressive, culturally vibrant, politically influential, economically dynamic. What we have done in past 12 years is right in front of you. So I request you all to just have a glance at it, go through it, read through it, what we have done. We majorly work in 5 major domains in school development programs known as SDPs, Employment Assistance Cell, EAC. We also deal with scholarships and self-employment. We also have our own AMP Resource Center, and we also deal with awards and partnerships. So I would keep this slide open for another 10 seconds. You can just read through it so you can have a better idea what AMP has achieved in past 12 years. AMP's on-ground presence, we are currently present in more than 100 active chapters, which is spread across 25 states within India. We have active volunteers across 16 countries, and we have 6,000 plus active members who are connected on ground with Association of Muslim Professionals. Our online presence, we have 125,000 plus members and professionals who are connected through various social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, and WhatsApp. If you wish to join AMP, kindly log on to www.ampindia.org/join AMP. We would be glad to have you all on board AMP. Thank you so much. So about today's topic, social media for social good. As we all know that social media is the strongest tool of today's age, it has the power to create a great impact with less time, resource, and money. Today, we are going to learn about the effective use of social media from social media experts and change makers. So with me, I have on the panel Mr. Abdur Rehman, who is the ex-IPS officer. I have Ms. Irena Akbar, who is entrepreneur and a former journalist. I have with me Mr. Tabish Sangrar, who is global entrepreneur and author. I have with me Mr. Zaeem Mirza, who's a global business and marketing strategist. And I also have with me Ms. Zoya Rasul, who's an independent writer. We'll go to our next speaker, Zoya Rasul, to start the session. She is an alumni of MCRC, Jamia Millia Islamia, has worked as a copywriter in advertising agencies, taught at Delhi University, and now freelances as a writer. So, Ms. Zoya Rasul?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Alhamdulillah.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'm really glad to be here. So, I mean, this is a like very vast topic because I mean, I hope I'm clear, right? I'm audible, right?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Okay, okay. So, I'll quickly, f- start with how small ideas or which are rooted in our personal experiences, they can branch out as full-on movements. And instead of talking,
Hello.
hello, hello, hello,
Yes,
yes.
please continue, Irena.
Okay, okay.
Anyway,
Thought someone was interrupting. So, yes. So, the experiences which we have in our personal life, the fights or the issues which we think are limited to our personal space, if we channelize the energy, the whole motivation of justice around it, they can actually there are lots of them, but there are two which I really liked. The one is called educolor. So this started in 2012, and this was just an hashtag. So it was just an hashtag educolor, and in which teachers, educators, and the people who were in the teaching profession, they used this hashtag to talk about things about their experiences, and they were all these teachers were people of color. So it started in 2012. It was US based, and it actually now it has become, it over the period of years, it has become a movement. And what they do is, they advocate, you know around issues of educational equity, justice, and they're very clear about it, that they want to amplify the work and ideas of students, educators, and communities of color. So although their work is restricted to a very specific, they wanted to uplift and work for the justice of one particular community, that is the people of color. But because they appealed to so many people, because in 2012 the social media networks were still growing. It was still in nascent stage, and people were still trying to find out the ways which would work and which won't. So actually has now become a regular thing. So like every once or twice in a week, they would come up with this, where you can post up questions, you can start a communication. And very interesting thing is that they have just make this hashtag their own property. So what they have done is, while talking about educolor, if someone uses or puts across their views using this hashtag, and the people who are behind this, they don't agree with what they are saying. So this is what we see, right? We see that when we talk about a cause, we champion about a cause on the social media, it starts from one thought, and then eventually more people join in, and with their interpretation, the essence of that hashtag, or what we say, that the whole core of the topic is, it gets diverged. So it branches out so much that what was the initial thought of that idea, that gets lost. So what they have done is that, and they actually, they see what people are writing using their hashtag, and they actually have grown it into a, an online and offline networks of professionals, and they help them people out, especially, getting more people of color in education. So these are the examples that we can take while we start with any initiative or what we want to do. So how owning your, making and hashtag a baby of yours. You own it, you protect it, and even if it is like 10 years down the line, you would want that to be protected. And another, this was one example, and of those who are, who may or may not be aware of this, may just can go and read about it. And then another initiative is another, it was also a hashtag, which was refugees welcome. So after 2010, when Arab Spring started in Tunisia, and entire Middle East was like caught in a strife. So of course, refugees, people started, running away, fleeing the war torn areas, and I mean they started moving on towards Europe. And so there was this very strong anti-immigration emotions. That is, it is still there in Europe, where there are wings or the outfits which are like really opposed to immigrants coming to the land. But then what came up, I mean, what happens is this anti-immigration thing, or what we can call, if we want to connect to Indian perspective, anti-Muslim rhetorics, they are generally backed by some people who want to be in the power. It's like almost always the case. So be it white supremacists, be it Hindu nationalists, be it anti-immigration, I mean, they have some power backings. I mean, it's not just, random hanging in the air. No, they have backings, and they have the strings attached. So what happens is, so because of that, they are very strong. Also, they have resources, they have money, and they have the power to influence the medium. So they are very, organized. They have their own armies, troll armies, or what you can say. So to counter these things, a lot of certain social media initiative cropped up in Europe, and there are lots of them. But one which was like really interesting is called Refugees Welcome. So this started as an hashtag, and I mean, it peaked with that picture of that Syrian boy who was washed ashore on one of the seashore, and that picture like worked as the catalyst to build up solidarity towards the refugees. But what this Refugee Welcome International does is, what they do is now they have now they have branched out from just a hashtag to a proper website. So what do you do? What do you say? I mean, they say that refugees they don't belong in camp. Yes, good, they have fled their homes. Their home country is war torn. They can't go back there. There are no schools. Probably they have lost their everything there. So now when they come to another country, I mean, they couldn't be spending their entire lives in camp. So what Refugees Welcome does it asks people to volunteer to and they bring in this flat share concept. So what, from the website, if you go to Refugees Welcome International, what they say is, why shouldn't refugees be able to live in flat share or houses instead of camps? So they have found a way. So it's a 4-step process. So you have to register your flat share and just give them the basic information, and then they will put you in touch with a local person who will, I mean, because there are a lot of European countries which are getting the refugees, so they will put in touch with a person who can liaise with the refugees, so he can connect these two people. So there is this setup there, and then they can help you find ways to pay your rent. So you have an incentive for yourself. So although you are doing it, I mean, you have a trust, you're doing it with some feeling of goodness to out of humanity. But they have also put this return for yourself, so that they can help you in ways in which you can pay your rent. And so this is how a hashtag has evolved into this beautiful initiative, where if I have a spare room, I'm living in Europe, I can call upon one, say a single mother living with a kid. And it all started with social media. So when we talk about social media for social good, I mean, it's not just a small charity that you are doing. I mean, it has a huge impact. So just sharing a meal with a refugee, I mean, so this has now grown into, say, 21 countries now. So you can imagine what started what started off as a hashtag, it has now become such an impactful initiative, which is like really changing the lives. And when, say, a white person who has had the right place is sharing his or her home with a refugee, and can you imagine the how many kinds of interactions they would be having, and how far it can grow in breaking those stereotypes, that amalgamation, that how they will be equally able to mingle with each other, and they will be like closer to each other. So it's not just helping someone, it is also that multiculturalism. And so these are two very interesting examples that I came across. And there are just few points that I would want to say, that right now with the social media we see, be it Facebook, Twitter, whatever, it's like really commercialized. So someone is trying to make money out of it, and we need to understand it. When I mean if I mean I'm not talking about random social, like my personal, in my personal capacity, if I am using social media, it doesn't bother it wouldn't bother me as much. But if you want to use the social media for a cause, and you want it to become a something which is tangible, and something which sustains years for years, and which can bring a good for your community, I mean whatever, be for in our if we talk about ourselves, it can be a Muslims community or whatever, I mean migrants or anything. So we have to factor in that this social media environment is commercialized. So there is a possibility in, you know, to collaborate, but that has to be dialogical. So there are two ways in which people engage in social media when we build solidarity. One is connective, and then there is collective. So what is connective actions is, for example, I do a fundraiser that this a particular person is struggling to pay his or her fees, and if you would like to share the burden of his fees, then please connect. So this is a connective action, and the person who anyone can engage or just donate and just forget about it. There is no collaboration happening. There is no, taking this connection to a next level, because so it just ends after the moment that person makes that fund transfer of whatever amount he or she has pledged. So these connections like this sees, and I mean what we should focus are about collective actions. So about collective actions, I would like to see, there is this example of migranttales.net. This is this blog which came up, in which migrants were sharing their stories about how, I mean whatever, what problems they faced, the good, I mean just a blog, I mean they just shared whatever, what was it, be it a good experience or bad experience, and how it happened. I mean it, so many activists, so many human right workers, and they got engaged, and they started reading out their experiences, and they were able to pinpoint a lot of problems that these people were facing, the migrants or the immigrants or the refugees. So it from just a space where you're connected, it becomes a collaborative thing. So that is one thing which we need to stress on, while we build something which flows for a longer period of time. And we talk about solidarity, but preferred solidarity that we should be looking at through social media is the solidarity of dissonance, that we accept that the people are different, there are different people, but there are good people in all those kind of people, and we have to bring this come up with this common ground where these different people understand that our differences are good, right? And we need to bridge these differences, and we don't really need to bridge it, like, I mean two people can be different and they can still be for each other. So yes, so uh,
Zoya, another two
yes,
minutes for another speaker to come
yes. So I mean, solidarity of dissonance, which is like yeah, we see that it has become increasingly shielded. So we have retreated to this closed grove as if under siege. So also there is this onslaught from the people in power. So and the designs and algorithm, they further make us to draw ourselves in these subgroups where we interact with our own kind of people. So I mean this is one thing I would like to end with. I mean we should try to we can build bigger solidarities by uh, you know just reaching out to diverse people who can connect with us, finding some connecting dots and having back of each other's organization. So we make bigger solidarities on social media network, and of course then we can take it to the next level, like the two examples that I mentioned, the educolor and the refugees, to make something tangible out of it. So yeah, I would like to end with that. I hope I made some points.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zoya. It was
You're
really
welcome.
insightful things that we got to know from you. I would now like to call upon our third speaker, Mr. Tabish Sangrar. He's a global renowned technologist, entrepreneur, international speaker, and angel investor. Mr. Tabish is an alumni of MIT Boston and has contributed as guest faculty at IIMA ISB, Babson in Boston, and Harvard Business School. So, Tabish Bhai, I request you to please take it over from here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm going to now state the two lines which have become extremely synonymous in the post-COVID world. Am I audible? And is my screen visible?
You are audible, but I think if you are sharing anything, it is not visible here.
Yes. So I am sharing screen. Let me just unshare and share again. Hold on. Okay, great. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session. Uh, so, I am actually going to keep my presentation extremely tactical because I think all of us are more than aware about the power that social media wields over the world today, and that, like with every powerful thing, it can be used for good and not so good. So my presentation is going to be extremely tactical. What I'm trying to get at here is that for everyone who's joined the call today, I would have clear takeaways for you so that you could use some of the tips that I talk about in your endeavors, whether you're running a not-for-profit, you're running a business, or you're trying to establish your personal brand. So with that, let's just jump into it right away. So, hi, I'm just going to quickly, describe my journey so far. So, the host mentioned, I'm a technologist with more than a decade's worth of experience. I've worked as head of technology. I work with international organizations. I am an entrepreneur myself. I work extensively in digital. We work with Fortune 500 clients, and we work extremely closely with Facebook, Google, Microsoft, all of the FANG companies when it comes to deploying digital products. In my wide experience, I have worked with not-for-profits. I've worked with Fortune 500s. In my capacity as angel investor, I have worked with startups in the US, in India, and essentially what it all converges is that no matter what your business is, at some point in time, or most of the time, your touch point is going to be social slash digital media, right? So I'm not going to get too much into the semantics of it. What I'm trying to get at today is that there is this whole mystification around social media, around digital, and how is it that you can use it to basically leverage your agenda, so to speak, or let's say, like I mentioned, about your brand or your business. And if you really look at the core of it, it's not really very difficult, right? At the outset, it may look very, very vast, but I mean, if you really break it down, social media, digital media is just an extension of traditional marketing. It so happens that the means to that end is technology, right? So typically, let's just let me run you through the evolution. There was this kid, drop out of Harvard, builds a social networking website. That website goes on to capture the imagination of the world. Before you know it, all of your friends are onto that website. Couple of years down, your driver, everyone maybe a security guard, and now your tier 2, tier 3 laborers, everyone is pretty much on that platform. That boy goes on to buy a couple of other high engagement applications like WhatsApp and Instagram, and now you have this one company which has probably more than half of the population on its platform. Now the most easiest thing there was, make one post an ad, and try and reach as many people as possible, and that's where they earned their billions of dollars. As time has progressed, as more and more brands started coming online, as more and more businesses started coming online, it's becoming increasingly difficult to go the traditional route of making a post, posting an ad and boosting it and hoping and praying to get some traction, right? So in this scenario, how is it that you can use and leverage social media for whatever your end goal is? In this case, you're talking about social good. So I'm going to try and give you examples which resonate with some of the things that the attendees might be working on. So broadly, for the scope of this discussion, I'm going to stick to three major examples. I'm going to stick to Nike. I'm going to stick to Gieja. This is a personal campaign that I had run when I was head of technology and CEO of the e-commerce business for India's second largest retail pharmacy chain, and indiazakat.com, which happens to be India's first crowd-funded zakat platform. I just, sorry. Yeah. So the first step, I mean, uh, no matter what you do today, I mean, everything is dictated by brands, right? In every aspect of life, in every touch point that you indulge in, it's all about brands, right? So social media shouldn't be any different. So the first step that I would say from a tactical standpoint, like I said, I'm going to give you a 3-point plan. The first step is you start by building your brand, right? I'm sure you must have heard this in bits and pieces, but let me break this down a little further. How is it, or what does it mean to really build your brand, right? Let's look at Nike. Okay. What you see on screen is what brand Nike has built today. Right at the center, you have Kaepernick, who basically took a knee in order to protest for Black lives, right? So this was when people of color were being killed and were victims of police brutality in the United States of America. That's when an A-League NFL player decided on national television in the Super Bowl to actually go and take a knee. Like, I mean, he knelt, and that was a sign of protest. Obviously, he was fired from his team. He was not allowed to play professional football after that. But he became the brand ambassador of Nike. Obviously, rumor goes that he earned more with the contract with Nike than he would have made in the remaining years of his service. On the left, you can see this whole campaign about finding your greatness, right? So it's about this fat kid who's trying to figure out a way to be fit. On the right hand side, you can see a woman and extreme sports, which basically says, hey, move more, move better. Now, this is what Nike has become. If you look at any of the Nike ads, people in fact wait for years, and every year for the Nike ad to launch, because it's giving some big social message. Right now, the latest ad, if anyone has seen, where coincidentally they also have the Indian women's cricket team, it's talking about how we will get back to where we were, in a post-COVID world. But what is Nike? Nike has one of the longest running lawsuits against them for exploiting workers in developing countries, especially in their labor camps in China. Nike is notorious for underpaying its workers, underpaying its laborers, for sourcing material which is not necessarily ethical, for making workers work in unmanly hours, and again not compensate for them. And that is the reality of Nike. It's like any American corporation that has exploited every single aspect of human rights, and then goes on to position itself as this massive human rights brand, right? But I'm saying it succeeded. Here you have Nike as one of, it's not a shoe brand anymore. Nike today stands for everything that is pro human rights. And I'm saying that's the leap. That is what building a brand means. It doesn't matter what you do, but it's all about an idea that you want to project. So I mean, let's say for example there is an NGO which is working in the sphere of education. I think regardless of what your modus operandi is, there has to be this bigger goal or this bigger vision about ensuring equal opportunity. So I'm just giving an example. So the campaign could be, or let's say the brand could be about providing everyone with equal opportunity regardless of the privilege that they're born into, right? There is an ongoing debate in America right now that education is also a net sum of the privilege that you're born into. It is not a society of meritocracy. It's basically your genetic lottery that you won. You were born into an upper middle class, rich class household, and you were able to afford college, get into a good job, high paying job, and then move on with life. People of color, people who are immigrants, first generation immigrants, are not so lucky. So education by itself is a privilege today in the United States of America. I mean, the state in India is well known. Oh, okay. So, coming closer home, so there was this campaign that I had run, which was called "Freedom from Non-Transparency," and the idea was very simple, right? So let's look at the brand building part here. So, a retail pharmacy chain, which is essentially selling medicines, has nothing to do with pricing, has nothing to do with drug manufacturing, none of that. Decided that, hey, we are going to take up a cause and run with it. This was conceptualized by me and executed across multiple channels. And I posted some of the creatives here. We went on to win a Campaign Asia award, which is typically an award that you get for very innovative campaigns. And the idea here is again that the brand was about trust, and the brand was about justice, the brand was about transparency, and that's what we ran with. So essentially we ran an entire campaign which spoke about that cancer drugs are disparately priced. There is a lot of opacity around the pricing, there's a lot of opacity around the availability, and what typically happens is a patient when he is diagnosed with cancer has anyways lost the battle. वो दुनिया से वैसे भी हार चुका है, and he's losing his life, he's losing his money. On top of that, when he comes to buy medication, he's ripped off, right? So typically the markup on cancer medicines is about 400%. The margins are just insane. And that's something that we thought that, hey, we're going to challenge that. And we took that a positioning and started building on top of it. Just give me a quick minute. Sorry, I just got a couple of the second quick piece. So I spoke about building a brand, and like I said, it was slightly bigger than what we usually think about building brands, right? So I gave you some hardcore examples, and I also gave you an example in the case that you're with education. What is it that you could do? Let's say you are in the business of let's say providing food at this point in time. The entire campaign could be around the basics, right? So it could just be like a campaign could be around that, hey, we are all about providing the basics, right? Which is roti kapda makan kind of thing. Now, while you're building the brand, another important aspect is that you build trust. If you are not building trust, your brand is worthless, right? And what do I mean by that? You're going to make a post, or you're going to build a digital campaign which is going to reach out to millions of people. They don't know you, they don't know your work. The only touch point they have is the creative and the content that you've provided by virtue of that post. And if you're not able to elicit trust, you've lost them, right? So while you're building the brand, it's very important to build trust. How do you do that? It's very, very simple. And it comes down to the core value of the work that you're doing, right? I'm going to take the example of indiazakat.com. So, like I mentioned, India Zakat is India's first online crowdfunding platform. We built this out in, a couple of days just before Ramadan, and we launched it. And, we ended raising up close to about 60 lakh rupees during the month of Ramadan, right? And why is it that people were able to trust this brand? Why is it that people were able to come to indiazakat.com and actually donate zakat? Obviously, COVID-19 helped because, this was a very timely offering. But let's talk about how we tried to build trust, right? So, indiazakat.com was not just a website. Okay, while we were trying to build the platform and promote the causes, what we thought was it's very important to get our core USPs out to any possible patrons out there. And these are the points that you see on your screen, where we said that, hey, this platform is Sharia compliant, we verify every single cause, we ensure that the amount is fully disbursed, and we have a safe and secure payment gateway. So it ensures that when you are sharing your credentials and payment details, there is no chance of this being hacked or any of this being lost. Now, did we need to put this out there? No. But why did we put this, right? Because anyone seeing this automatically has a sense of reassurance that, hey, these people are doing something right, and at least they're following the basics. So when we talk about Sharia compliance, there was a zakat advisory board, there was a zakat advisory council, and people who were interested could actually explore and get to know more about it. Another area where trust was built is that this was an initiative carried out by Association of Muslim Professionals, and now this is the halo effect, right? So halo effect is a term where basically you take one entity or one individual or a brand, and उसकी जो brand value है, उसका जो trust value है, that gets transferred on to another brand if this first brand is endorsing it, right? So in this case, because it was Association of Muslim Professionals that was primarily driving it, India Zakat was able to benefit from that default trust. But we still had to go the extra mile and build these pieces in. Just building on this example, right? I just gave you the example of that retail pharmacy chain. Hey, someone wants to say something?
Yeah, Tabish, for another 3 minutes. Yeah?
Oh, sure.
Thank
So just building on that example, right? Like, I mean, this retail pharmacy chain that was running about building this trust-based platform of Gieja, they spoke a lot about their legacy, the stores, the qualified pharmacists, the genuinity of medicines. Because when you're offering medicines at half the price or one-fourth the price, the first thing that comes to mind is that, hey, is this medicine even genuine, right? So I have 3 minutes. I'm going to rush through this a little bit. I was not keeping an eye on the counter. So we spoke about building the brand. I spoke about building trust. I've given you some example as to how trust or perceived trust can be built. The another thing, the most important aspect, the third part, which is the tactical part of the tactical plan, is growth hacking. And how do you do that? So now you build your brand, you have put in your trust metrics. Now, how do you grow, right? So in addition to making posts, making ads and stuff like that, growth hacking has taken on a whole new meaning. And how does it work? You build community, you engage with micro influencers, and you lead with content and thought leadership, right? Like I said, it's not about putting a post out there, putting out an ad and hoping and praying that, people connect with you. So let me give you quick examples. Community, right? I'm going to talk about Fitter and societal platform. So Fitter is this, this community of people who come together to understand more about nutrition and gymming and blah, blah, blah. And they got together and, they build this massive company, जिसके अंदर ये nutritionists आके सबको diets and वो सारी कुछ देते हैं. Now, as they built a community of about close to, 2.5, 3 lakh people, they launched another platform called Better. And Better were about doing social good. And you will be amazed that every single post on Better was actually serviced within the community. Someone needed food, serviced within the community. Someone needed money, serviced within the community. Someone's parents needed help during COVID, serviced within the community. Blood, serviced within the community. Plasma, and the ripple effects of this. So 2.5 lakh people reached out to 20 plus lakh people for every single post that was put out, right? So this is the power of community. So when you're building when you're trying to build your brand and you've established trust, when you're growth hacking, have a massive focus on how do you build community. Societal platform is basically this initiative by ex-leaders of Infosys, some of whom I've had the privilege of working with and I work closely with, again, in capacity as angel investor, advisor, and technologist. Societal platform is an accelerator for NGOs. So basically they take all these NGOs on board and they basically train them how to build up processes, how to raise money, how to ensure corporate governance. And now societal platform itself, after multiple cohorts, now is a collection of multiple NGOs in multiple spheres. So when societal platform gets a request for something, they are able to hello. Yeah, so when societal platform basically gets a request for something, they are able to pass it around their community, right? Micro influencers, I think, is again very simple. What you do is you look at social media influencers, people who have a lot of following, you try and engage with them. Very simple examples are Rana Ayub and Sonu Sood, who did a lot of good work during the pandemic and who got a lot of support. Now they are not organizations. When Rana Ayub raised a campaign on keto, she got 80 lakhs in one day. We collected 60 lakhs in India zakat over a month. Rana Ayub raised that in one single day. Obviously, she's an influencer. She's a Washington Post journalist. She's an international icon. Similarly, with Sonu Sood, Bollywood actor, comes in with his own money, raised a crowdfunding initiative, and was flooded with help. Last but not the least, from your growth hacking perspective, the third thing is content and thought leadership. Now, these are some of the hashtags, which really went viral. So message of love essentially is a group of Muslims who during Ramadan, the year before last Ramadan, actually went and donated food to all officials of TSA at the airport. They actually donated them pizza. Okay, saying that, hey, you guys are working so hard and, we'd like to share, food with you all and give you all food because, there was this whole economic slowdown and whatnot. And they were saying that, hey, this is Islam, the message of love, and this is happening in Ramadan. So content, they built content. So they made videos, they posted posts, photos, and, propagated their message, which was, hey, Islam is a religion of peace. Secondly, she builds and share the mic. These are initiatives which are happening in Boston, in MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I happen to work very closely with them. They're all social innovators and entrepreneurs. And basically, it's about diversity and inclusion when it comes to women in the workforce and entrepreneurship and startup space. So, yep, I think I have managed to stay within time. I think probably a minute over, but yeah, that's about it from me. I hope that you were able to, get the takeaways that are required for using social media, and let this serve as a tactical plan. If you have any questions, happy to take them towards the end.
Thank you so much, Tabish Bhai, and it was really an insightful talk from your end as well. So I would like to now call upon our next speaker for the day, Irena Akbar. She has 14 years of experience in the English language print news media in Delhi. In 2016, she took early voluntary retirement from full-time journalism and took up an entrepreneurial role for herself. She is now based in her hometown, Lucknow, from where she runs her store, Baradari, a house of art and crafts. So, Ms. Irene Akbar, I would request you to please come on board. Thank you.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you.
I think I've been put ahead in the list because I was supposed to be the last speaker, but that's okay. Thank you for that. So, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar, and it was quite a pleasure to listen to all the accomplished speakers. And I'm not too sure. I'm not a change maker. I'm not a social media expert. Rather, I'm a beneficiary of social media. And I would give the case study of my own store, Baradari Arts, as an illustration of how social media helps small businesses like mine, small businesses run by women entrepreneurs. And before I get to that, just a little bit of introduction about myself. So I run this store called Baradari Arts. and we create and sell Arabic/Islamic calligraphy. And we also sell Urdu calligraphy, and we sell this for home decor and for gifting purposes. And we are based out of Lucknow, and we've been operational since December 2016. Prior to that, I was a journalist for 14 years in New Delhi. I worked with various media organizations, and my last position was special correspondent with the Indian Express. I quit in 2016, but as they say, once a journalist, or rather once a writer is always a writer. So I occasionally contribute opinion pieces to different publications even today. So I use the social media for primarily two reasons. One, to promote my business, and two, to speak my views as an Indian Muslim, to bring the Indian Muslim narrative on the table. So, so my talk is divided into two parts. One is the business part, and the other is the Indian Muslim perspective, primarily on Twitter. So I'll begin with using social media to promote my work. And as I said, social media has been a big enabler for small businesses, especially those run by women. Technology in itself has led to a huge boon in women huge increase in the number of women entrepreneurs. I was reading this study that there has been a 45% jump in the number of women entrepreneurs in the US alone from 2007 to 2016. That's a 45% jump, and I'm sure the numbers are similar in India. And within technology, social media has been the big catalyst for this. So as I said, that we are into selling Arabic and am I audible? Sorry. Hello?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So as I said, we are into creating and selling Arabic calligraphy. Calligraphy, as you all know, is an art form, right? So we started by selling it purely as art. And a primary channel of sales and marketing was art exhibitions. So we launched ourselves by holding a very big Islamic calligraphy art exhibition at Lalit Kala Academy, which is India's apex institution for promotion of fine arts. And we held this big exhibition in Lucknow in 2017. And Alhamdulillah, it was quite successful. And here too, I had used social media to invite people because I was very new in Lucknow. I didn't know anybody. So I got onto Facebook. I created an event page. I added all the page 3ites of Lucknow into my friend list, and I invited them that way. So there also I got the invitees through social media, through Facebook, onto my exhibition. So anyhow, we held this exhibition. It was quite successful, and subsequently we continued to do it at a smaller level. Like we would sorry, I think there's some problem in we would display at stalls in cultural festivals. So we did that for about a year, this art exhibition model. And during that 1 year, from my experience, I realized that selling art is not easy. There are very few people who understand art, fewer people who value art, and even fewer people who will actually buy art. And within Islamic art, because it caters to a very specific audience, it's even more difficult. So I decided to make two changes. One is that we will not sell this just as art. We will sell this as a gifting item. So you buy it not just as home decor, you buy it not just as a visual / artistic expression of your faith or belief in your home, but you also buy it as as something that you can gift to a loved one. Like, for instance, you can gift to a friend on his or her birthday, you can gift to a couple on their wedding, you can gift to your parents on their wedding anniversary. So we introduced personalized calligraphy and all. So the moment we started selling this as a gifting item, it made all the change. So people saw a utility or an extra value in the work that we were doing. So we changed the messaging. We were selling the same thing, but we were now selling it as a gifting item and as art as well for the people who love art. But as I said, most people don't understand art. For those who don't understand art, and I'm sorry, I don't want to sound condescending while saying this, for them it was a gifting item. And the second change that I made is to go online, because you see, holding art exhibitions is very difficult, and it was restricting me only to Lucknow. Being a woman entrepreneur, it's not easy for me to travel across the country or across the world for security reasons. So I thought that let me take this online. So that will enable me to sell beyond Lucknow and even beyond India. So we set up our website, baradariarts.com, and we started selling on Etsy, which is an Amazon of arts and crafts. So so we went online, and Alhamdulillah, we get orders from various places in India. We primarily get our orders from Hyderabad and, from Bangalore, from the south, and from outside we get from Canada, from UK, etc. But I realized that just having an online presence or just having a website is not enough, because the internet is one big, wide, deep ocean, right? And you're only a tiny drop in that ocean. So how do you get found? How will people find this tiny drop? How do you make yourself visible? So in order to make yourself visible, in order to make yourself found, in order to go from page number 25 on Google search to page number 1 on Google search, you need to put in a lot of effort and also a lot of money. So what we did is that we hired a search engine optimization agency, an SEO agency. Since most of you are technology experts, I'm sure you know what is an SEO. I don't have to explain it. So because of SEO, we pushed the rankings of our website, and we are now on page 1 on Google, and we are now the top search result. If you search for buy Islamic art, buy as in BUY, buy Islamic art or buy Islamic calligraphy, we will be in the top 2-3 search results on the first page. But that doesn't help either. And the reason is that very few people actually search for Islamic art on Google. There are very few people who would go to Google and type, I want to buy Islamic art. So the sample size in itself is very small. So like if very few people are searching on Google to buy Islamic art, so it doesn't matter if you're number 1, right? So if people are not coming to you, you have to go to them. So in order to go to them, the road is social media. So that is when we opened a Facebook account, we opened a Facebook page for Bharat Riyadh, and we opened an Instagram handle for Bharat Riyadh. So, what happens? Sometimes you have to create a market for a product. You have to generate interest, especially for non-essential product, and especially for something which is so old and long forgotten like calligraphy. तो उसमें आपको interest generate करना पड़ता है, आपको market create करनी पड़ती है. तो आपको बार-बार लोगों को दिखाना पड़ता है, देखिए हम इतनी खूबसूरत नायाब चीज बना रहे हैं, जो आप अपने किसी, you can give it to a beloved person, or you can keep, and it's a visual artistic expression of your faith. Because
Sorry
your
for interruption, Miss Irena. Another 5
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
Just
10
another
minutes
5
go-
minutes? No, I think you've given me less time.
No. 10 minutes already gone by.
10 minutes already gone by. My God, I
Yeah.
don't think I'll be able to come to my Indian Muslim narrative part. Chali, theek hai. So you have to generate interest, and so we managed to do that via Facebook and Instagram. So we started getting traffic from social media onto our website. All right, so I kept Twitter out of this. I only use Facebook and Instagram because Twitter for me is an outrage chamber. वहाँ पे सब एक दूसरे को बस चिल्लाते रहते हैं. It's a ranting chamber, and even I think corporates, they also keep listening to customer complaints on Twitter. So I thought Twitter is not the place. It's too noisy a place to promote something as serene as calligraphy. But more importantly than that, Twitter is a space for me as an ex-journalist. So I go to Twitter and I write my humble opinions about the state of affairs, and alhamdulillah, I have a good number of followers. And so I got noticed by a handle called Muslims of India handle, which basically invites a Muslim in a week and asks that person to tweet on a particular topic. So they asked me to tweet on calligraphy and on baradari because they knew that I was doing this. तो वो मैंने किया. तो एक हफ्ते में मुझे जो ट्विटर पे फ्री पब्लिसिटी का जो रिस्पांस मिला वो इतना अच्छा था compared to the paid Facebook marketing campaign that I was doing. So I thought that's great. So I can start promoting from my own Twitter handle. So when I started promoting from my own Twitter handle, I was, as I said, I primarily tweet on political issues. तो मैं अगर 100 tweet लिखती हूँ तो उसमें शायद एक ही tweet calligraphy का होता है. लेकिन उस एक tweet से मेरे पास बहुत ज़्यादा buyers आते हैं compared to, say, the paid campaigns that we do through SEO. So some social media expert told me that this is called social media influencer marketing. I said, that sounds way too boastful for me. I'm not a social media influencer. He said, but that's a technical term, and this is social media influencer marketing. So I thought that, I think social media influencer marketing works because when people trust your voice, when they relate to your opinions, when they relate to your views, when they trust your word, So they're likely to trust your work as well. So that is where I think Twitter has really helped Baradari. And having said that, I feel uncomfortable and uneasy about this fact because I want Baradari to outgrow me, to outlive me. It should be able to sell on its own. So then we made an independent Twitter handle for Baradari. And through that independent Twitter handle for Baradari, we got our first corporate order, alhamdulillah. It was an order placed by a company in Delhi whose CEO is a Muslim. And he asked us to, he asked us to write the names of primarily his non-Muslim clients and to frame them. And this was his way of promoting Urdu and promoting cultural diversity. So that was our first corporate order on Twitter. So just to cut it short, that social media has been a big enabler for small businesses, especially those run by women. There are women who run bakeries online. There are Facebook pages for bakeries. There are a lot of women who sell clothes through WhatsApp. I know if you go to Instagram, it's full of women selling hijabs. So इतने ज़्यादा हैं कि उसमें confuse हो जाते, कहीं पे order भी नहीं कर पाती कि कहाँ पे order करें. So social media has been a tool for women empowerment in that way. And very briefly, I will talk about, since I think I have only 2 minutes left, about using Twitter to put out the Indian Muslim perspective. You see, the social media, like the mainstream media, is completely dominated by the right wing. Right wing has money. They are well funded, they're well oiled, and it's very difficult to get space in the mainstream media. It's difficult to appear as a panelist on a television channel or to get space in a well-reputed newspaper, your voice. The good thing about social media is that it's a democratic platform. It gives equal free space, equal free opportunity to everyone to raise their voice. And it's a great opportunity for Muslims to raise their voice, to put out our story, our perspective out there. And one of the things that just one case study I'll give, and I'll give it briefly for only 2 minutes. When the Babri Masjid verdict was announced last year in November 2019, so obviously a lot of Muslims were upset. They were lamenting about the death of justice, the death of secularism in India on Twitter. And there was this Muslim girl in Bombay, and she had tweeted a very beautiful picture of a mosque in Bombay. I think it's a blue and green mosque. And she said, "Agar mandir ban sakte hain, to aisi khoobsurat masjid kyun nahi ban sakti?" So it was basically a very sarcastic tweet, to which a Congress supporter, a so-called secular liberal supporter, took offense. And she said, "What is this mandir masjid nonsense you're talking about?" Very arrogant reply of hers. So मैंने सोचा कि चलो ठीक है, इनको मैं direct वो नहीं करूँगी. I started a hashtag called Mosques of India hashtag. I mean, it was a spur of the moment decision. It was completely organic, unplanned. मैंने बस एक tweet डाला. I requested Muslims कि can you please tweet pictures of mosques in your mohalla, in your city, in your town, in your village, चाहे वो historical mosque हो या simple सा mosque हो, आप please उसकी pictures को tweet कीजिए, उसका short description डालिए, and do it with Mosques of India hashtag. Alhamdulillah, by the mercy and grace of Allah, even though this was my idea, there was so much of collective effort by Muslims that within 1 or 2 hours, this was the top trend on Twitter, and it got covered by BBC, it got covered by TRT World. And the idea of the hashtag was that you may have destroyed a heritage mosque like Babri Masjid, but hello, you cannot wipe off 1,000 years of Muslim rule. You cannot wipe off the presence of 180 million Muslims of this country who are symbolized by these very mosques whose pictures we are tweeting. So the Mosques of India hashtag was, and it was, as I said, it was completely organic, unplanned, spur of the moment. और हम लोग ने उसको एकदम top trend हो गया within 1 hour. And ये BJP IT cell वाले, they actually pay the troll armies to do this. But यहाँ पे हमने अपने आप से कर दिया था, which shows that if we are organized and if we are funded, we can do much better. And of course, this is an ephemeral, and I mean, this has nothing to do with ground reality, of course. मतलब ये जो social media trends होते हैं, ये बड़े momentary होते हैं, temporary होते हैं. इनका ground reality से ज़्यादा नहीं हो पाता है. So for a social media trend to have a real effect on the ground, there should be a ground level initiative as well. And just one more, please. Can I just give one more example, which is very recent? After the Tablighi Jamaat controversy, what had happened was there were some non-Muslims based in UAE. वो काफी Islamophobic social media posts डाल रहे थे. So some of the Muslims, they started calling out these posts and they started tagging the employers. देखिए आपके ये employees जो हैं, they are putting out such Islamophobic posts. तो उसका काफी backlash हुआ, to the extent that the Indian ambassador to UAE had to issue a statement saying that the Indians living in UAE should respect the shared code shared values of India and UAE. Even Prime Minister Modi had to bring out a tweet to that effect. So this was a social media trend that had started to, against, calling out these Islamophobic social media posts by UAE based non-Muslims. लेकिन उसका backlash ये हुआ कि जो इंडिया के मुसलमानों ने ये डाला था, they got the backlash in terms of FIRs and all. Like, I got 2 FIRs lodged against me, but I think one has to be prepared for, for such consequences. If you have to take on Islamophobia, you have to be prepared for these kind of risks. And so basically a medium or a platform is what you make of it, how you use it. It's neither the fault of the platform nor the credit of the platform. It's basically how you use it, and accordingly uska fault hota hai ya uska credit hota hai. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you so much, Irena. I would now like to call upon our next speaker for the day, Mr. Zaeem Mirza. He is an accomplished global business strategist as an avid marketing technologist. He is a graduate in mass communication from the St. Xavier's College in Mumbai, secured his post-graduation in advertising management from MICA Ahmedabad, and is a marketing academy graduate from Singapore. Zaeem bhai, I request you to please take it over. Thank you.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, so I'm Zaeem, and today's topic is social media for social good. Ideally, I would have loved to start first, alhamdulillah, but no worries. I can try and sum up the session as well in a bit. Just keep me on the timer as much as possible, the host, the Shahzad. So, some disclaimers. I don't have any specific case studies as such because I wanted to highlight what social media can be used for, what are the positives, what are the negatives, and what are the tools available. A lot of examples were shared, some closer to the home, some probably global. I will try and be very generic in terms of the benefits of using social media for social good, and what are the options available for the users who are now listening. Basically, if you're a business owner, if you're a not-for-profit, if you are an NGO, or even if you're using it for your personal brand management, what are the benefits and how do we use social media and what are the negatives as well. So this is a typical agenda we'll follow because I have only a 10-15 minute slot. Inshallah, we'll try and cover up some of these topics. Why social media, and finally the tactics, tools, and technology. So before we delve much, I kind of gave away the slide. This is what we call in the industry as the internet minute. So while, let's say, we've spoken for the last 60 plus minutes, this is a 2013 internet minute where, let's say, in 1 minute on YouTube, 72 hours of videos were uploaded. Hundreds of thousands of searches have happened on Google. So many Skype calls have been done, etc., etc. You can see from the visual. I just wanted to visualize, but let's move further. In 2018, this was the situation. So I'm just focusing on the top social media, instead of the video upload. YouTube now focused on 4 million video views. That means 40 lakh videos were viewed in 2018 alone in a minute. Thousands of Skype calls were made. WhatsApp messages, 29 million messages were sent. 4.2 million searches were done. 42 lakh searches were done on just Google alone. And the list goes on and on. Of course, these are only the top social media or digital properties of the internet. Switch to 2020 and the numbers have just further increased. So what has happened is there are 40 lakh or 4.1 million searches on Google, millions of people logging in on Facebook, 59 million messages sent on WhatsApp. We all use WhatsApp on a regular basis. 700,000 Instagram scrolls, 200,000 people tweeting in a minute. And trust me, it's increasing by every single day. So there is no stopping to it. And that's why I feel social media or digital media in its perspectives or work areas as a personal brand, as for business owners, for not-for-profits, has become so important that you can't just miss it, right? So, I mean, the idea was, like Sister Irena mentioned, trust is good, and that's the word. And with social media, if you can create that trust and work your way out to it, like also Brother Tabish mentioned before, if you can create that trust, across the social media, it'll start working for you. Now, what are the positives? Why do we need to have social media, use social media for our benefit? So the quick things I have listed down, some points, which are very, easy for reference for you as users. The lap time usually is, or creating content, generally if you're creating generic content and not like sophisticated content, within 15 to 20 minutes, you can come up with your idea, your post content. If you're not doing a very elaborate campaign, the lab time or the creation time is very less. Even on your personal level, you just need like maybe 5 minutes to create a tweet or a post or a LinkedIn post or a Facebook post, and you can just post it online. Plus, it's user generated content. So users love other users' content. More and more, we have stopped trusting brands creating content for commercial reasons. And that's why you'll see this concept called UGC, where users create content. A lot of video sites, including TikTok, including YouTube, have this entire concept running on this phenomena of UGC. There's lots to choose from. So that is a fantastic thing for users. I mean, you can see millions and millions of videos uploaded, millions of pictures uploaded on Instagram. That's a lot of content for users to choose from. Helps to bypass the censors. A lot of other speakers mentioned today that social media and digital media especially allows you to push your blog post. You don't have to be a journalist. You don't have to be a writer. You don't have to be an author. You just have to have your idea and a content in place to create the communication that you would like to create for your users. It's heavily technology based. So you need to use technology to go scale. It's not restrictive. Anybody can use it. That makes it very democratic, as some people have mentioned earlier in the webinar, and cuts down isolation. So earlier, if you were isolated, you would want to like do something on your own. It was difficult because you couldn't. You needed a team, large team for production. Right now, you don't need that. You can just do it from your phone, and you can do it all in multiple platforms at one go. So you automate it as much as possible. And the best part is, social media is free as much as possible. You can use growth hacking and you don't need money. Paid media can take you somewhere. Of course, your free media can take you places, as explained in the examples given by other speakers. So these are the positives of why we should use and not, hesitate to use social media at all. And of course, with positives, there are some negatives as well. What those negatives are, is it like the death of professional journalism? So can anybody become a writer? Can anybody become an author? Who's accountable? Where are the ethics? And who's there to enforce ethics? Like if I tweet something and there's something wrong about it, who's going to ask me to remove the tweet? Yeah, there is a reporting system, but where does it go? Is it enforcing ethics at scale? So these are a lot of negatives that happen with the social media. Is content curation ever going to happen? Like earlier, in a newspaper, there is an editor. In a news channel, there's an editor who decides what news goes on, what people watch, what people don't watch, of course, and what is relevant to the users. But is content curation possible on the social media and the internet of today? These are the negatives and the questions that a lot of experts keep getting day-to-day basis. Again, it's quantity versus quality. We have so much of content available that it sometimes becomes difficult what to watch, what not to watch, and what to consume. Plagiarism is very easy to do. A lot of people copy a lot of stuff. So your originality, you might be an original creator, but it can also get lost. And research is child's play online. All you need to do is just go and do a Google search or just pull up a search engine, and you can actually become a researcher, which is like a very scientific process. But in today's world, anybody can actually have their thought leadership on probably anything A to Z happening in the world. So that were like the positives and negatives that you have to consider while you, as a business owner, as a not-for-profit, or as a personal brand engager, need to use social media for. Fair enough. Now, how do we build social engagement? We've got a lot of examples from the speakers earlier in the day in this webinar. So I'm not going to go to why to use social media. I think Brother Ahmed gave 9 uses, which were quite, succinct and precise. Other users, other panelists gave examples of the campaigns that they've run, managed to good results. So I'm not going to get into those, but what are the tools available? And how do we tackle which tools to be used? So again, I'm using some visual example. So, whoa, huge. That's a lot of tools. So if you look at this screen that I'm sharing now, it's from brandsolus.com. This person has actually done a good job of dividing the social media available or digital media available based on the different categories. So comment and reputation, blog platforms, blogs and conversation communities. So which ones can we use? Or can we use all, or should we use only few of them? Okay, if this is not it, and if you're not like overwhelmed with it, look at this. This is just an advanced version of that. So over the years, I can't actually, like really have to look at the screen and figure out what is happening where. So there's social commerce, collaboration, Q&A, social curation, blogs, streams, niche working or niche marketing, business network. So there are hundreds of tools available. And if this was not enough, look at this. This is also, I've actually not gone and find out if there's an updated version for this, but this keeps you in the middle, you, the brand, the NGO, the not-for-profit, or the business owner, or the personal brand, and then categorizes. So I thought about it in today's session. Should we like go in details, or each item, each category one by one? But I realized, of course, not everybody uses all of them, even as businesses, even in my own experience in consulting, in working with large brands, for my personal branding as well. We do not need to use all, and one size does not fit all at all. Like we had some examples, personal examples from today's panelists as well. So the idea is you choose what works for you. If you are live casting, take the software that you think are good for live casting. If you're using photos as your primary content syndication or content amplification purpose, you can use picture-based social networks. If you're using social media for just communicating your general lifestyle, general social good that you want to do in your community, then Facebook or other platforms are good as well. So again, it totally depends on the purpose. What is the purpose of your communication or the goal of your reach? And you can decide which social tools you can use for your benefit. Of course, 10 minutes is a very short time to go into details of how each category works. Inshallah, if we can have another session, maybe at the request of AMP, we can do a much deeper session of how each tool works differently and what you can achieve with each of the tools to accelerate your social media and digital media presence. So technically, to kind of sum up my session, if you want to create social media impact, you need a plan and not just social media profiles. A lot of brands, a lot of people, a lot of users, a lot of brand owners and NGOs feel, oh, now we've made a Facebook page, we've made Twitter handles, we've made an Instagram account, and we've made a YouTube channel. It's done. I think it's not done. It's just the start. So to create a real social media impact, you need a real plan and you need to be consistent about it. And that's the bottom line I would like to say. That kind of sums up the topic of the webinar in terms of what can you do with social media. It's a media now you cannot ignore. It's a media that you need to use for your own benefit, but you need to go with a plan. If you go without a plan, you're basically planning to fail. So yeah, that's about it from my end. I hope I'm well within my time. I thought of a 10-minute presentation. Thank you for
Thank you so much, Zaeem. It was really a short time, I understand, but the information that was shared by you was really insightful as well. We'll definitely think over it about keeping a session completely about the social media and get the audience for that as well. So in terms of Q&A, there's only one question that has been raised, and this question is raised for Tabish Bhai. So I request Tabish Bhai to please answer this one of the question raised by Mr. Imtiaz Hussain, that how do we crack social media if we have limited budgets? Tabish Bhai, are you there?
While Tabish Bhai is going to answer, maybe I can answer. Tabish, are you there?
Hey, hey guys, yeah, hi. My network is a little bit patchy, man. So I'm sorry I missed that. Is there a question?
Yeah, there's one question that has been raised for you because it is asked especially to Tabish Bhai. Imtiaz Hussain has asked, how do we crack social media with limited budgets if we have limited budget?
Very good point. So, there's this whole movement even in Silicon Valley where venture capitalists are saying कि आज जो भी startup बनती है ना, जो भी स्टार्टअप सिलिकॉन वैली में हो, इंडिया में हो, दुनिया में कहीं भी हो, तो वो स्टार्टअप कोई प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं कर रही है, वो दुनिया में इसीलिए आ रही है सो दैट दे कैन फिल द पॉकेट्स ऑफ फेसबुक, अमेजॉन एंड गूगल. ओके, एंड द रीजन व्हाई दे से दैट इज क्योंकि इतनी हेगमनी हो गई है ये तीनों की ओवर दिस सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म्स दैट देयर इज जस्ट नो वे अराउंड इट देन बाय spending money. Okay, so let's say for example, if you want to amplify your voice, you can spend money. So there was a very specific reason why I'd given the example of Fitter. Now you'll be very surprised to know that this gentleman Jitendra Choksi, and I mean obviously we now have to go at face value. We don't know what is the real truth, but at least that's what he's advertising. That's how he's built his brand. He says that for Fitter, which was earlier known as Squads, which started off as a WhatsApp group, then became a Facebook group, has spent $0 on marketing on Facebook. So Imtiaz bhai, to your question, the answer to your question would be that towards the latter part, the growth hacking pieces that I spoke about, which is build a community, which will give you network effects, talk to micro influencers, and genuinely think of great content which can be shared. So aap over a period of month, let's say you're creating content every single day, you're creating content, end of the month you have 30 such content, let's say blog ho gaya, video ho gaya, koi information article ho gaya, jo bhi ho gaya, there's a high likelihood that one of them can definitely go viral. With time you'll figure out that. But if you get in this whole trap of Facebook budgets and all of that, I can promise you that that's a bottomless pit. उसके अंदर कोई वो नहीं है. So it's to your question that how do we crack it, those 3 points that I gave at the end of it, which were those growth hacks, that build community, talk to micro influencers who are willing to amplify your cause, and the third thing is lead by content, because there is no replacement for good content. I hope that answers.
Thank you so much, Tabish bhai. Zaeem bhai, there is one question that is raised. I'm going to sum up two questions together because they both are almost the same. If you could just answer that question.
Can I answer Imtiaz's questions as well? I have some points there.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So thanks, Tabish, for the response and taking Brother Imtiaz's question. I think there are apart from growth hacking, the way I have managed and experienced is not to avoid paid budgets. So technically, let's say you mentioned limited budgets. You did not say no budgets, right? So if you have budgets, if you have no budgets, then of course we're talking a different language altogether. But if you have a limited budget, let's say if you have probably even 10,000 to market, because you need to keep a marketing budget for sure. Otherwise, you should not start something unless you're really good at growth hacking, which will come out of experience. So yes, create content like Brother Tabish mentioned, and don't get disheartened when your content doesn't, or your posts or your communications doesn't get a response on the day one. Usually we fall in the fallacy of, hey, today we posted something but nobody liked, today we posted something but nobody retweeted, nobody watched our video, the views were less. So you'll have to do this consistently. I've seen some people build brands for 10 years, nothing happened, and I have real examples, but I would not like to speak now. If you want, you can connect me with you offline. They've actually created content for 10 long years for with very limited impact, but in the 11th year is when they started reaping, and today they're making millions of dollars out of it. So it totally depends on what your content. So don't lose hope. You start creating. That's why you start slowly, and that's what we call as growth hacking. Use free tools as much as possible. I've listed down the chart. There are hundreds of free tools available. Use them for your advantage. But my approach is use some paid media, because with paid media, very limited amount, you'll get user traffic, and you'll start understanding where the traffic is coming from. And once you start using data, all social tools have some kind of data and analytics inbuilt. You can use that free version, of the data available, and start using, you'll have to sit and analyze that. So very small amount, maybe you can start with 50 rupees a day or 100 rupees a day. If you're in India, or if you're outside, maybe with, a couple of dollars a day on these paid campaigns, very limited amount, and then see how it's performing. And then maybe you can pause it if it works good. If it doesn't work, technically, if it's helping you make $100 for every $10 you're spending, of course, you would want to continue, and then also focus on your growth hacking or your organic hacking. That would be my take on this.
Okay. Thank you so much, Zaeem bhai. So Zaeem bhai, there's one question raised, which is, impact of media versus social media, and the another question with it is social media impacting teenagers?
Okay, so I think
Impact of social media on
the open
teenagers.
question for all panelists. Inshallah, I'm sure everybody will try to chip in. I'm actually not clear in terms of Brother Mujahid's question, impact of media versus social media. I think if your question is which is more intense now, I would say depending on the brand user for your personal stuff, or if you're an NGO, be where your users are. So technically, almost a large chunk of millennials is online on digital properties or social media, and that's why we are so gung-ho about social media today. But if your audience, and if you're a business owner, if you're all sophisticated, they're actually still reading newspapers or magazines or visiting very typical websites, then you would use those as your, channels of communication. But I mean, if you would want to elaborate your question on a bit, if it's in some context, impact of media versus social media, we on the panel would love to answer. The second part, social media is bad for teens, affecting relationships and communication, or social media impact on children. Fortunately, unfortunately, I'm not a person who talks about the effect on teens. So I'm not sure if I would be the right subject matter expert to address that question. But I believe personally, because I'm a parent as well, alhamdulillah, I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a lovely daughter. Uh, uh, I think it's all about maintaining a discipline, just like you would do for, anything else. If you can't avoid kids not having social or mobile devices with them. So you choose which device instead of a mobile device. Can we give them probably larger screen, maybe a laptop, but with a time management system. So maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes a day max, and there are a lot of tools and a lot of applications available on what kids can watch, or with social and children control. So it's a very open question, whether is it good or bad. I would say any media uh, is totally decided upon what is the message and how do you use it. So it's totally up to, if you're a parent, and if your question is from a parenting point of view, I think what has worked for me is time limiting, or keeping a timed approach to physical devices or social media consumption for kids.
Thank you so much, Zaeem bhai. I would also request Miss Irena Akbar, as she has been part of both media and social media, as she was a journalist before. So if she can share some light on impact of media versus social media for a minute or two. Miss Irena Akbar?
Yes, yeah, I was I wasn't part of television. I was part of the print media, and very sober print media like Indian Express, like very serious and unglamorous. And definitely social media, I think people don't read much, So as I think Brother Zain just said, if you have a sophisticated audience who still read newspapers, then probably you can. I think the question was, I mean, social media versus mainstream media. In what context is this being asked? In context of business, and in what is the context? I mean, social media versus mainstream media in terms of what? I mean, definitely in terms of reach, social media. I mean, the mobile phones are extensions of ourselves, So we're always having the mobile phone with us. So, and the thing is that a lot of newspapers are now online. So definitely social media is a more powerful tool than mainstream media. And there's a lot of merger between the two, because television channels and newspapers, they're all online as well, and they all have their Twitter handles, they all have their Facebook pages, so they also use social media. The newspapers, like a lot of people, they don't subscribe to Indian Express. I mean, I'm sorry, I keep giving example of Indian Express because that's where I've worked the longest, and I continue to contribute over there. So not many people read Indian Express, the newspaper, but they read the content that the newspaper shares on Twitter or on Facebook. So mainstream media utilizes social media because it knows the power of social media. And in terms of I mean, I'm actually trying to understand the context in which this question is asked. In terms of disinformation, definitely social media overpowers mainstream media because there's so much of disinformation being spread, especially on WhatsApp and on Twitter and on Facebook, because very few people read. And our television channels are pathetic because they again rely on WhatsApp University for their news, so-called fake news. So in terms of disinformation, people are really uninformed because they are relying more on social media. And in terms of businesses, again, like I'm a very small business. I don't have the money to go to mainstream media, but uh, uh, obviously but I'll give you one example, like Airtel. The importance of social, like Airtel is on Twitter, right? So we had a problem in our network connection. So we kept calling Airtel and they were not responding. The moment I put out a tweet, I immediately got a call from the social media team. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say that social media has an overpowering effect on other forms of media, be it in the corporate sector, be it especially in disinformation. Very few people read now, and people read less. They have lesser attention spans. There's a lot of distraction. They read small information, or they read small tweets. And so I'm trying to understand the context in which that question has been asked. Definitely social media is more powerful than mainstream media, right? Because सबके पॉकेट में फोन है, तो सबके साथ है, तो वो हर वक्त उसको देखते रहते हैं, सोते वक्त भी उसको देखते हैं, ड्राइव करते वक्त भी देखते हैं उसे, तो वो उनका जीवन साथी बन गया है, तो ऑब्वियसली उसका इम्पैक्ट ज्यादा है.
Correct. Thank you so much for your viewpoint. I'll take a last question of the day. The question is asked especially for Zaeem by Nawaz Muhammad. How do you make awareness or reach out to more people by being ethical way? I mean, not copying of any content from others.
Yeah, I'm going to try and maybe rephrase. I'm just trying to make.
Zaeem, you're not audible.
Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Your voice is very low.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you make awareness or reach out to people by being ethical way? I mean, I'm just trying to interpret the question. I think it's about being genuine. A lot of people, instead of if you're starting, for your personal brand or for your business, you can actually, start very scrappy. People love scrappiness now. Unless you're a celebrity, you don't need like lights, you don't need like heavy equipment for production. You can actually just start from your phone, and be scrappy about it, where you can really say that you're doing it in a very genuine fashion. So if you want to do a vlog or a video blog, you can just maybe pick up your phone, record a very short video. Millennials, which is the users of today on social media, like genuinity. We as users have stopped trusting brands unless they're genuine. So I think instead of copying content initially, I mean, of course there's always inspiration or reference from other sources of content. Initially, I think you should be genuine, but just trying to be very natural instead of trying to go for a very sophisticated professional way of either video blogging or posting content. You can start small, test it out. If it works, fantastic. If there's a specific context in which you had this question, you can reach out to me offline, inshallah. I will be able to guide me or any other panelist, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Zaeem. So it was overall a very good session. I would
sorry, I just wanted to add that social media versus mainstream media, if I can be allowed, because this point occurred to me. The book publishing industry, there are people whose manuscripts are rejected because they don't have enough followers on social media. Right. So for your book to get published, you already need to be a social media celebrity. Earlier you would be a celebrity through your book, and then you would create a social media account. Now it's the reverse. So first you need to have a sizable number of followers on social media for the publishing industry to even accept your manuscript. So that is the reach of social media, that it's not your content, which is, of course the content aspect is there, but your reach has become as important as the content of your book in order to be published. So this is a very important, rather sad aspect, because the number of followers does not necessarily indicate quality of of the person who's writing. I mean, quality of the tweets of the person whose book is being considered. So I thought I should just add that.
Thank you so much. So I now request Mr. Razak Sheikh, the project head at Association of Muslim Professionals, to please conclude the session so we can end the session with a dua.
Yeah, thank you, Shehzad Bhai. Today's webinar was, the beauty of today's webinar was the diversified panelists what we had. We had a technograph who spoke about technology part. We had a lady entrepreneur who spoke about challenges in setting up an entrepreneur business. We had an IPS officer who spoke about do's and don'ts of social media. We have a Silicon Valley guy who spoke about so much of data statistic tools of the oceans, which is social media filled with. We ideally know about few things that comes to our mind. We only are limited ourselves to FB, Twitter, LinkedIn, but he spoke about the entire ocean. What are the things available on social media? Since I'm representing AMP, I would like to share what AMP has contributed or how AMP has been gaining out of social media. The topic that we decided for today was social media for social good. And the good part was the entire panelists spoke the positive part since the topic, the headline was that. One of the biggest takeaway of social media in India is the birth of AMP. AMP was started through Orkut, a social media platform. Currently, AMP today operates in 100 cities in India and 16 countries across the globe without even having any physical presence anywhere. So that's the beauty of AMP and social media. Today, we are connected globally with anyone and everyone across the world. Today, MP runs hundreds of projects on a daily basis. So many members are connected. We have more than 1 lakh online presence. Everything is connected through social media. So social media is a double-sided sword, where you have positives and you have negatives. One more question had come regarding teams and social media. So here it is up to us, how do we define the limitations of social media and where do we take it forward. AMP has been in existence for last 12 years. In last 12 years, we have moved from Orkut to FB, from FB to WhatsApp, and from WhatsApp, we are currently moving to LinkedIn. So that's the journey that AMP has traveled through in social media, and we have kept on growing. And like all the panel have quoted, for Indian Muslim, since we don't get space in the media channels and print media and everywhere, social media becomes a very important enabler for us for anything and everything, whether it is our social work, whether it is our brand identity, whether it is our topics of discussion, or we want to create a business out of it. Social media will play a very important role in that. The way I spoke about AMP, the growth of AMP, which has been there, the entire social activity across the country, whatever is happening, everything is connected and everything is reported through social media only. And in social media, largely it is FB and WhatsApp. Today, AMP, the 100 cities that AMP operate out of, everything, every member that is connected to AMP is thanks to WhatsApp. We have a facility that was offered free of charge, and that helps us to scale up this level. Had there not been social media, probably we might not have grown so big, because physical presence, physical travel require a lot of time and money. But social media has cut down and made entire globe a single platform or single place to actually deal with everyone and everyone. Similarly, the way AMP has grown in, Tabish has been part of it, IZC, IndiaZakat.com. It is one of a marvelous project again launched by AMP. It was launched in a small preparation time of just 15 days time. It took us from ideation to launch. It was only on average 15 days time that was done. Tabish and the entire team has done amazing work. Today, we have been able to raise more than 70 lakh out of that. 60 lakh was raised just in a month time, what Tabish already spoke about. This IndiaZakat.com, we are launching on 15th of August a scholarship. And I think that scholarship will touch base more than 5,000 kids across the country. So that's the power of social media, how are we going to help those 5,000 kids? We are going to do it through crowdfunding, through the entire network of AMP. I would request all the panelists who are there to help us to scale up our presence on social media. You all are in, yourself social enablers. You have your followership, and I would request all the participants who are watching us live right now, or all the people who will be watching us in a later stage through FB, YouTube live, or through our home pages and through our channels. I would request them also to play a catalyst role in taking AMP to the social media, the last mile connect that we can do. So AMP depend a lot on social media, and AMP only work on the positive side of the social media, what we have been talking about, what we have been summarizing in this entire webinar, how social media can play a positive role. And whatever presentation Shehzad Bhai showed in the beginning that AMP has been working on, we work on employment, we work on education part, we work on empowerment part. We are again launching a project called mentorship. Again, it will be a mentor-mentee project completely on social media. No physical presence. People across the globe with their specialties, with their experience, will mentor few of the students in India. So this is how social media can be used on a positive note. Somebody spoke about with low budget, how can you scale up in social media? Yes, AMP has done that and proven it in his 12-year journey. We have hardly ever used any expenses on social media. Entirely the growth that has come purely from organic movement that we have done to our members, to our people. We request all the social media enablers to actually support us to take it to much bigger heights. Currently, we are operating at X level. We want to make sure that we reach out the masses. How can we help everyone? The target audience that is there, the Muslim educated youth, we need to connect them and help them in anything and everything that is required by them in terms of education, in terms of employment, and in terms of empowerment, what we can do for them. I would like to thanks on the behalf of AMP and on the behalf of our president, Amir Idrisi, to all the 5 panelists who gave their time, who shared their experience, and who actually spoke out of their heart. It was nothing a written narrative. It was more of things coming out of their heart. In spite of constraint of time, they were able to juggle around and give their opinion and within the time limits. So that was a great thing for us. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you all the participants who are watching us live and who are watching us through FB, YouTube, and our other media channels. It was a great session we had today. We spoke about social media, and inshallah, we'll take it further from here, where we'll talk about specialization in social media. We'll connect again with Zaeem Bhai and others who can actually talk more about how can we make use of specific channel and what can we gain out of that in terms of social work and in terms of business enablers. Thank you, everyone. Back to you, Shehzad Bhai.
Thank you so much, Razak Bhai. So we'll now be ending this session with a short dua. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين يا أول الأولين يا أخير الآخرين يا ذا القوة المتين يا راحم المساكين يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين اللهم يسر لنا أمورنا كلها مع راحتي لقلوبنا وأبداننا والسلامة والعافية في ديننا ودنيانا حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Thank you everyone for joining this session. To all the speakers, thank you so much for your valuable time. We'll be ending this session for now. Thank you so much. This is Shehzad signing off. Assalamu alaikum.